So, when you think about economics, what comes to mind? Money? The stock market? Well, yeah, that's part of it, but it's actually way more than that. It's really a whole way of thinking, a specific way to look at the world and solve problems. Okay, let's dive into this. I mean, think about it. Every single day, billions of people are making choices: what to buy, where to work, what to create. It's this incredibly complex web of decisions happening all at once. So how on earth does anyone even begin to make sense of it all? Well, they do it by using a kind of special toolkit, one that's built on the scientific method. It's all about developing ideas, grabbing data, and then testing those ideas to see if they actually hold up in the real world. So let's open up this toolkit and see what's inside. All right, the very first tool we're going to pull out, and honestly, this might be the most important one, is the power of simplification. To get a handle on a complicated world, you first have to make it simpler. And the way economists do that is by making assumptions. Now, when I say assumption, I don't mean just a wild guess, right? Think of it more like a strategic decision. It's about intentionally ignoring some of the messy details so we can focus on what really matters. It's how you cut through all the noise to see the basic pattern underneath. For example, imagine a physicist trying to figure out how fast a pen will fall. They'll start by assuming it's falling in a total vacuum. Of course, the real world has air resistance and humidity and all that, but by ignoring those things for a minute, they can get to the core principle of gravity really, really quickly. Or check this out. You might see a simple diagram, right? The sun shines on grass, a cow eats the grass, boom. That's a model showing how energy gets from the sun to the cow. It intentionally skips over the incredibly complex biology of photosynthesis and digestion, but it still gets the basic, essential point across. So, as we get into our first economic models here, you gotta remember this. Part of your brain is probably gonna be screaming, but wait, the real world is way more complicated than this. And you know what? You're right, it is. But for now, let's just enjoy the simplicity. You have to start here to build a foundation before you can understand the whole shebang. Okay, let's put this idea into practice with our first model, the circular flow diagram. This is basically a simple visual map of how money and, well, stuff moves through a basic economy. So, in this super simple world we're building, you've only got two main groups of people. On one side, you've got households. That's you and me. We have our labor to offer and we buy stuff. On the other side, you have firms, businesses. They use our labor to make that stuff, and then they sell it. So let's follow the money. We'll start in the market for goods and services. A firm, let's say a pizza place, sells you a pizza. We, the households, spend our money to buy it. That money flows directly to the pizza place and becomes its revenue. Simple enough, right? But wait a minute. Where did we get that money to buy the pizza in the first place? Well, that brings us to the second loop, the market for inputs. This is where we, the households, sell our labor to the firms. In return, the firms pay us wages. That payment becomes our income, which gives us the cash to go out and buy that pizza. And boom, there it is, a continuous loop. The income we earn from our jobs becomes the money we spend on stuff, which becomes the revenue businesses use to pay us for our jobs. It's a really simple, but honestly, a super powerful picture of the basic economic flow. All right, time for tool number 2. This one is all about understanding limits and choices and the tough decisions we all have to make. It's called the Production Possibilities Frontier, or just PPF for short. So what the heck is that? Well, it's basically a graph. And this graph shows you every possible combination of two things an economy can create. Given the stuff it has, its resources and its technology, it literally draws the line between what's possible and what's not. This graph is awesome because it lays out our options so clearly. Any point right on the curve means you're being super efficient. You're getting the absolute most out of what you have. Any point inside the curve, well, that's inefficient. You could be making more. And any point outside the curve, sorry, that's just unattainable with what you've currently got. But here's the really important part. See how the line slopes down? That's not just some random line on a graph. That downward slope is the visual proof of one of the most fundamental ideas in all of economics: trade-offs. It shows that if you're being efficient, the only way to get more of one thing is to have less of another. And the PPF is amazing because it lets us calculate the exact cost of a choice. For instance, to move along the curve and produce 100 more cars, this graph shows us we have to give up making 200 computers. That giving up part, that's what economists call the opportunity cost. So in this case, the opportunity cost of one car is exactly 2 computers. And here's the punchline. You ready? The slope of that line is the opportunity cost. It's not just a representation, it's the actual number. This is huge. It makes the abstract idea of cost completely visible and measurable. This turns a vague feeling of we can't have everything into a concrete calculation. To get this, we have to give up exactly that. Now, you might be thinking, why is the curve usually bowed outwards like that? Why isn't it a straight line? Great question. It's because the resources for making cars and computers are really specialized, right? As you make more and more cars, you have to shift workers who are actually brilliant at making computers over to the car factory. So the trade-off gets steeper. If the resources were similar, like for making tables and chairs, yeah, the PPF would probably just be a straight line. Okay, last tool in the box for today. We're going to switch from graphs to language. Because a massive part of thinking like an economist is knowing how to spot the difference between a statement of fact and a statement of opinion. So economists basically split all statements into 2 big buckets. First, you have positive statements. Think of these as descriptive. They make a claim about how the world is, and the key thing is you can test them with data. Then you have normative statements. These are prescriptive. They make a claim about how the world should be, and they're all about values and opinions. Let's use the minimum wage to make this super clear. If someone says the minimum wage creates unemployment, that's a positive statement. Now, it could be true, it could be false, but the point is we can test it. We can go look at the data. But if someone says we should have a minimum wage, see the difference? That's a normative statement. It's a value judgment. You can't prove an opinion right or wrong with a spreadsheet. And why is this so important? Because so many economic debates get tangled up when people mix these 2 up. Understanding this distinction is like having a filter. It allows you to separate the claims that can be tested from the pure value judgments, and that makes you a much sharper, more critical thinker. So there you have it, the first few tools in the Economist's toolkit. The next time you hear a pundit or a politician make some big economic claim, use them. Ask yourself, what assumptions are they making? What are the trade-offs? And most importantly, is their claim positive or normative? Are they describing the world as it is, or are they telling you how they think it should be?